you got any cell phones, I'd like to have you turn them off. And everybody will stand for the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. McKeever. Here. Minor. Here. Wireball. Here. Tricka.
Here.
Sack.
Here.
Foote.
Present.
Schott.
Here. At this present time, I'd like to accept the minutes from the November 5th, 2019 regular meeting. With a motion.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. At this present time, we're grant permission for visitors to speak. The first person to speak is Gary Frankhouse from the Crawford County Partnership.
Good evening, everybody. I have handed out in front of everyone a few documents that I wanted to go through tonight. Looking at this as a recap of some of our investments this year. Two of them are updates on the Danner housing study. One is on the opportunity zone. And then one is more informational in terms of direction of marketing our region while selling locally. So with that teaser, if we could, we'll start with the Danner housing report. This is an executive summary specific to Bucyrus. We also have a larger document that is in the mayor's office that has all three of the communities, Crestline, Galleon, and Bucyrus. So if you want to look at it in totality, it is in there for your viewing. But I wanted to give you something tonight that we could drill down on Bucyrus. The interesting thing about the study is what it came back saying was really all three communities are in desperate need of multifamily, moderate to upscale apartments. And the explanation that is given is that in this continuum, that's where the break is. So what we're finding is we're losing some of our younger professionals that can come in and they can afford maybe apartment rentals that are in the $650 for a one-bedroom, $1,100 for a two-bedroom, two-bath. And as a result of not having that inventory, we're seeing a loss to our neighboring counties. And then what happens is they become very familiar with where they are living, and that's where they tend to then continue on with a single family, maybe starter home, or from there on to a second home. So the emphasis was on identifying multifamily. And I can tell you that I've had some discussions. Prior to this study, the gentleman that built the discount drug mart over in Galleon, they build discount drug marts across the state. They've sold about 3 of the discount drug marts that they built. That happens to be one of them, but they bought a lot of the other property. So their cost is really, you don't amortize land, but they've covered their cost with selling at the discount drug mart and then selling for the RV supplies. So they looked at auctioning off that property first of the year, and they had a minimum value and it didn't go. And he asked me, he goes, what can you do with this property? I said, well, know this about some of the things we're doing in Crawford County. And so he already had that investment in the land. So prior to this, that's what triggered that commitment to that building. I've talked to him a little bit because I've shared the vision in the housing study since. He didn't make his decision based on the housing study, but I've shared with him kind of the idea of what Bucyrus needs in Crestline as well. So started some initial discussions with him because he has the connections from a management standpoint and a construction standpoint. But there's also some local conversations I'm having with investors locally that are looking to diversify some of their business interests. So hopeful that we can establish a location. And I want to share with council that what I heard from the Gilch group that's building that over in Galleon is that if we can identify it in an area that has retail conveniently close, grocery business, that would be the ideal place for something like that. So I've looked at a couple lots around town, and with this investor that I'm going to be meeting with next week, I'm going to share those. But the hope is that we can start driving this housing study with that. When you look, I think it's page 11 in there, it then goes into single family. And one of the things that it identified is we have several different building development areas with 45 different lots. Nothing built on, but because of the quantity of lots, they believe that we're going to see the construction when we fill this gap in the continuum. And I've had some conversations, Tim Lutz in particular, he shared with me, and this is really good news, they haven't been this busy with new housing starts since the early 90s, which was encouraging. My background before doing this is in the home remodeling business, so it's good to see that we're restoring some of that which was lost in '08. So that's some of the good news and some of the things that we have to look forward to. I think the senior assisted component is the third priority because I think there's a need there, both in Bucyrus and throughout the county. So encouraged by the study, I think it's going to be a process. Wanted to explain kind of where that head start has happened in Galion, but also building on that connection to hopefully be able to expand it in Bucyrus as well. So hopeful with the housing study. Any questions about that in terms of direction or ideas on things we should be looking at doing?
Do you have the list, Gary, of all the properties that the city actually controls right now that are possibly for sale or could be sold properties?
That would be nice to have. No, I do not.
I'll get that to you. I will get that to you.
Here, and I don't recall, when they did the housing study, they didn't really look at our zoning and our restrictions in our zoning and how that complicates
They did not.
development and build.
Are there some specific things that need to be noted? So in these discussions with the developer, I need to share.
Well, and coincidentally, Landon's here tonight, but that's something that we've talked about previously, especially some of the things that they're recommending, the garden type homes and the townhouses and smaller.
In terms of like maybe height of buildings, that kind of thing?
Just in our residential districts and what they allow, and actually Landon probably gives a little, we talked about the restrictions, just don't allow for some of the things.
Last year, we added the multifamily structure for conditional use to the R3 zoning district. So that could likely encompass a good amount of the areas that would fit something like that. Otherwise, it would likely be relegated to the apartment residential district because our other residential districts only allow for one family or Commonwealth two-family dwellings. So I think the multifamily use that we put in there would likely accommodate that, but that's definitely something we could look at to make sure that's the case, to encourage something like that in an R3 area, or if we want to look at opening it up to other residential districts as well.
And maybe what makes the most sense is to get that list from you, and then I can meet up with you and I can talk about some of these other identified lands that, I would like to pursue, so that we can identify if we need to take any further action with conditional use. And then in terms of zoning, what about like any height restrictions or property setbacks? I mean, those are all things too that probably are going to have to be considered once we identify parcels.
Yeah, and that's the struggle. As you know, we're tearing down houses frequently in our older neighborhoods, but we end up empty lots. We can't go back because of setbacks and some other things. So we need to, citywide, we need to, look at that. We've got a zoning code that was adopted in the 90s, and it's much different economic climate now than it was in the 80s, wasn't it, 87?
The late 90s, early 2000s when the code was enacted. I don't know when that code that was adopted was specifically written.
That's in committee already, isn't it?
I don't think so. But it's a massive part of our code. I mean, it's not, you can't just do it on a Thursday.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we can start the discussions,
Oh, yeah.
get it in committee and get the discussion started, so that way as this comes around, we can be on top of things.
Yeah, and that's, and the biggest thing from our perspective, from my perspective is our flexibility. If Gary's able to attract something, our flexibility in some of our districts is limited, and the process is very long. Mr. Kennedy can talk to you about how long the process is. How easier for his tonight, but it is, and so business sometimes moves faster than city government.
I think that's something that we should get reserved and
So in terms of like the Board of Zoning Appeals process, Because I know that there were some of those hoops that they did jump through with the Guilds property.
Right.
Can that move pretty quickly? I mean, in terms of,
Fairly. Yeah, the BZA process can move, in a month's time, you can likely have your approval if there's no major questions with it or major issues. When you really get to an extended timeline, it's like Rob was, zoning changes, that types of things, those can, or adding uses or adding anything to the zoning code, making a zoning change like that, those timeframes can extend 4, 5, 6 months from the date you submit your application to final approval, so.
is that planning commission for that?
It originates in planning commission, correct?
Yeah, we definitely need to consider that, so maybe that connection with that property list can be when I get together.
Absolutely.
Okay. Without any further questions, I'm going to move on to opportunity zones and talk to you a little bit about the Montrose contract that we have. We're approaching the last month. A couple of the deliverables that have been given was an economic overview of the Bucyrus area, and then most recently some infrastructure demands that might be a result of building up behind what I'm going to call the Timken Industrial Park / behind Walmart. And then also, when we had the site authenticated in Ohio Crossroads Industrial Center, there was about 150 acres of additional property that was identified for expansion. So they've done some preliminary engineering costs work through Pogemeyer, who you're all familiar with from the CRA process. So those are 2 deliverables. In addition to that, we've spoken to 3 local community members. We do have an interest, actually, in the authenticated site. We've slowed that down a little bit because with the state budget, there is a rural industrial park loan fund that was created, and they just announced the guidelines. It was about a week and a half ago. I'm glad we did because the gentleman was ready to buy the property. Had he done that, one of the guidelines says you have to buy the property afterwards, after applying for the loan application, if you want to use the land as equity in the purchase, and that's pretty critical. So with that having been said, we're trying to get another meeting set up so that we can fill out the application, determine the direction that he wants to go with the intent of building a spec building. And that's really the purpose of this rural industrial park monies. Ultimately, it can be up to $2.5 million from the Development Services Agency, and that can be forgiven up to a certain amount depending on how much equity he has in the total cost of the project. So build some spreadsheets to share with him and kind of give him an idea based on rule of thumb estimates of construction costs. Right now, hearing about $75 a square foot for the office space, can be as low as $55 for just the 32-foot height, I'm going to call it warehouse manufacturing space. So the actual application is not out from the rural industrial park loan grant fund. Expecting that hopefully by the end of this week or next week. That's what we were told. And you're going to notice in that there's a map on the back that there's only several counties, mostly Appalachia, and then only a handful in our area that are even eligible. There's about $25 million, I think it is from memory, and so up to $2.5 million, which is what I would go after. The total costs of this project would warrant that we could get that. So I'm excited about the opportunity that could present, because the biggest challenge we've had is with these projects that come through from Jobs Ohio, it's pretty much they want to build it. And we have an authenticated site, which is great, but typically the projects don't want just land, because the speed to market is what business wants, and they want to build it and they want to be ready to go. And the thing that's nice about implementing this rural industrial park is with that grant forgiveness, we're effectively lowering the cost, which means the cap rate on these from a square foot price for whether this owner leases, which he would, because by being in an opportunity zone, the gentleman that would potentially build this needs to own it until 2030 to maximize that benefit. So ultimately, that brings that cap rate down. They usually say it's between $4 to $8 a square foot is what the rate should be. And this can bring it, down into the 5 and 6 range with that grant. So it makes it a very attractive potential building for a project. So I think we're going to know a lot more here in the next couple weeks. The goal is to try to get this all accomplished before year end, because the first hurdle in the opportunity zone is December 31st, 2019. If you want to take full advantage of these opportunity zone rules, you've got to get that capital gain invested. And if you do that, you get the full 15% deferral. Now, if you don't, it's still not a loss, because if you get it in there, I think you can still get 10%. And the real advantage for these opportunity zones is you keep the money invested in the project until 2030. And then when you sell it, whatever you make on top of the capital gain, so if I invest $100,000 and down the road, my sale of my portion of the ownership, that $100,000 grows to $500, the difference is tax-free. It's like a Roth IRA. So that's the real advantage. So even if the date of December 31st, 2019 comes and goes, it's still a great package to sell from my standpoint in terms of talking to investors. So, but there is an extra 5% that I'd like someone to be able to grab if we can get the investment done by the end of the year. And the Montrose Group is helping us do that too with the fund creation.
You mentioned that, a lot of these companies don't want to come in and take empty land and build their own building. They want to find a building that's already ready. Are we taking a stab in the dark and guessing what shape and size building they need, or is that traditionally more where they're just going to, we build a cookie cutter building and then they come in and retrofit that to what they need?
Great question. And so a month ago, I was down at the Ohio Economic Development Association meetings, and they had a special breakout session on building spec buildings, kind of the criteria that's the leading indicator. So 32-foot ceiling heights, 30-foot versus 60-foot spans between columns. So we've got a template of what should be built. And I think the other thing that I've learned from a building we have right here in Going that the Whiteman's built is they built a single slope. It's about 62,000 square feet. And what's beautiful about that is if someone needs 120, you just take off the other side and you've got it. So that's another way of looking at building one of these facilities, which I would encourage this individual to do, because with the projects I'm seeing, 100,000 plus is a great size to have. That's traditionally the size of projects that they're looking for that we just don't have the inventory in the state. So I think, I'm not saying commit to overbuilding on the front side because you don't have anything, but if you have that ability to be able to add that coming off that single slope and have it built within 3 months, I think business speed of market, they're okay with that.
So if you qualify for this loan, would that be administered through your office?
It's actually administered through the DSA.
Okay, so they grant that loan, they build the building, and nobody takes it. Who's on the hitch for that?
Well, this individual that's looking at the investment from an opportunity zone standpoint.
So you've already got to have that person willing to put their money up at that point?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, there's got to be that equity piece. You got to have at least 10% equity in. You've got to have financing lined up outside of the 2.5 million that's still not covered. So but the message is we've got some good opportunities in the authenticated site. And I'll also tell you that when we did get that authenticated, there was some additional properties identified, and we've moved in conjunction with the Crawford County Development Board that owns the park to talk to some landowners that are going to give us some options on expansion, which AEP had come to me with a potential project. We would be on the back burner, but because of our water supply, it puts us in the game. So we're kind of moving that ball down the field with really knowing that we're kind of on the backside of the opportunity. But even having talked with Tim Wells from AEP, he said, if you can secure that property through this option, it helps elevate your position as they're looking at these other communities. So I think that's and it sits within the opportunity zone too. So we really do have some wonderful economic development opportunities. So that's an update on the opportunity zones. And then the third thing I wanted to share with you tonight was it was more of a forward-thinking discussion that I started about a month ago. I've really been bothered, and I think I've shared with you guys as a group, that the US 30 is just an underutilized asset. We spent $315 million to build it, the state did, we didn't, the state did. Completed it in '08. And when you look at the map, and I've given you the map of the way Jobs Ohio looks at economic development in our state, Jobs Ohio is at the center in Columbus, and then we have regional partners. And I drew a black line through there to show you Route 30. And when you look at the counties, they're all outlier counties to the regional partner headquarters. So like we're in the RGP, which is based out of Toledo. Mansfield is in Neo, which is based out of Cleveland. Not that 30 touches Morrow and Marion, but they're in the far north of Columbus 1. So we have this wonderful asset that I think just gets overlooked because we're kind of out of sight, out of mind. So I started a discussion. I went to Reardon McLean, and he set up a meeting with the VP of Government Affairs for Jobs Ohio, and we had a really nice meeting down in Reardon's office, and she was really receptive. I had asked Greg Moon from Wyandotte County to go with me, and I positioned the conversation as, and I'm concerned about Ohio. And the reason I did that is when the new CEO of Jobs Ohio came on board, he was going around all the regions and talking to the locals. And I kept hearing workforce, workforce, workforce. And I agree it's workforce. But my question is it workforce or was it population? Because when you look at the state of Ohio, we're the 43rd slowest growing state. We grew at 0.67%. Just so happened I was on vacation out in California and was at dinner with a friend whose house just appreciated $600,000. I said, Bob, why don't you sell your house? He said, well, if I sell my house, I'd have to find something just as expensive. I said, no, move back to the Midwest. He said, oh, that's interesting that you should say that because I just had a friend do that, moved back to Nebraska, but sold his house for $600,000, bought a house for $300,000 cash, put $300,000 into retirement, and has a job just as good as he had out there. I said, this is an opportunity to attract people from those areas to Ohio because we need to make a focus on growing. I've said it to you guys several times about growing Crawford County. So I kind of just took this to the next level and I said, and when we do that, look out at your resources. US 30 is a wonderful resource from a logistics standpoint. We're within an 8-hour drive of 65% of the US population. It's flat, so development costs are a lot lower. We just brought through the Rover pipeline, which gives us ample supply to natural gas. We have a lower cost of workforce hourly wages, which can make it attractive. Cost of construction on new homes. Just with US 30, we have 4 new interchanges in Crawford County that we have land that we can logistically place right next to 30 to make industrial development easier. And when we started talking about all these things, she invited us down to a meeting, which was the 1st of October. And we had Richland County, we had Wyandotte County, we had Allen County, which was Lima. We had Ashland County, and we had a really good conversation about the unique selling proposition of US 30. And as we were even talking about the different opportunities, it kind of came to me as we were talking, when you just look at US 30 from a corridor of education, you look at Akron-Canton, you've got Mount Union, and you've got Akron, and you've got Kent, and you start moving across to Worcester and ATI, and then you come to Mansfield with Mansfield OSU and North Central State, and then Marion's just slightly removed from 30, but you've got OSU Marion, and then you've got OSU Lima. I mean, we have a corridor of education. And traditionally, we kind of limit ourselves sometimes, and it's like, we could be pursuing the genomics and the biotech, but we don't think like that because we think, you know, we're removed, we're rural America, rural Ohio, but with 30 and that connection, and we just saw what OSU Mansfield did. They started a 4-year degree program designed at tapping into the fact that their second highest enrollment is out of Cuyahoga County. So they're bringing all these kids in from the Northeast, and now they want to create 4-year degrees that we can expose them to what's here and try to keep them in the area and start growing that population. So tapping in with opportunity zones and the economic development and US 30 discussion, you know, we're starting to build some conversation. And in that meeting, they also had ODOT there. And I found this statistic to be one that we should all be really excited about, is that they call it travel satisfaction. So US 30 has a 93% travel satisfaction, which means that people travel at the maximum posted speed limits 93% of the time. So the amount of congestion is limited. And that's really important from business, because if you've got a 10-hour log on a truck and you get held up in congestion for 3 hours, you drove 7, but you've driven 10, you got to shut down. So it's costing business. But this connector that US 30 represents between 71 and 75, and then leading to The Turnpike and 70, which are the heaviest traveled thoroughfares. This is a great place for businesses to set up and then be able to move product from here out, or for product out to come in to have stuff done too. So we started some of that discussion too. And I think it's really important that I share all that with you, because as we're talking and working together on kind of bringing industry in, we've got to kind of know the same terminology. Because if we get an attraction visit, I'm going to need you guys there. And these are the selling points, along with what Jobs Ohio is saying, that I wanted to bring you guys up to speed with. And then on December 2nd, we're going to meet again, this time in Mansfield, to further this discussion. So I'll keep you in light of what's happening. But this all kind of plays into that. We need to market from a regional standpoint, US 30 Lincoln Corridor, and then we'll sell locally. But it's getting Jobs Ohio to buy into what this asset is that we have. So that's kind of where we're headed. Utilizing the opportunity zones and the housing studies and everything else that we've kind of planted these seeds. You know, now we're going to water them and fertilize them, and then that harvest is going to come. That's a reality. Those are the main three things that I wanted to share with you guys, and then if you had any questions.
How long can we expect this housing study to be relevant before we can't really lean on it any longer?
You know, Dandridge shared there was 3 to 4 years. I mean, the reality is what it says is until we resolve that, that is our need.
Okay.
So I think that the key is that multifamily. That is kind of the head domino of the fall. Because that's when the single family starts to pick up, that's when the condominiums pick up. But it's all these other, I mean, to build these industrial parks and utilize these opportunity zones, that's what brings the people here. It's critical. I mean, that's, you know, we talk, and I know it's been discussed, not necessarily at a council meeting, but even this idea of a free center. You know, that's 25,000 people as the sports travel tourism. And when you look at the details of that report, how significantly that impacts Bucyrus. On a Friday night, there's 500 beds needed for a large event. There's 132, I think, between the hotels here, and there's 61 in Galleon. So I still need how many beds? Close to 300. So the need for another hotel, and the fact, the regional impact that has is just significant. And Virginia Hammondtree and I have been talking about that a lot too, because the impact of that bed tax will helping the general fund of the city, helping the Bucyrus tourism. It's that idea that the rising tide lifts the ship, and where we're all rowing together. And I realize there's discussion at times, well, that's in Galleon, that's in Bucyrus. It's always interesting, because I'm in Galleon, they call me the county guy. You know, and then you'll hear things in Bucyrus. I had a lady stop in my office, well, you're doing all this. Well, the reality is we're doing it collectively, because that's that rising of the ship. And when we have this kind of end in mind vision, that we get the industrial parks, we get the housing, we have the people coming. You know, Crawford County stands to gain a lot. And I think we use some of these negative distress county labels that we have, but we use it for the positive so that we can tap into the real industrial funds. So we have a lot to look forward to, I think, and I think that housing study remains relevant. That's all I have. So thank you. Thank you for your support, and we're going to continue to work, and anything you can bring my way in terms of thoughts, glad to sit down and discuss it.
Talk to you afterwards, I'll get you.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Okay. I guess the floor is open to whoever else would like to come to the podium and state your name and address. All right, communications and petitions.
We've got two communications. The first one is from Mayor Jeff Research, Chairman of the Planning Commission, dated November 13, and addressed to Bucyrus City Council. It is regarding items approved by the Planning Commission for the City Council's review. Dear Madam President, the Bucyrus City Planning Commission met on Tuesday, November 12, 2019. It is requested that the following items approved by the Planning Commission be submitted to the appropriate council committees for review. Proposed zoning reclassification of properties from general business, GB, to limited industrial commercial, LIC. proposed rezoning reclassification include 1815 East Mansfield Street, parcel ID number 4300, 1328, 3001, and 1825 East Mansfield Street, portion of parcel ID number 4300, 1328, 3000. Southwest corner will be purchased and added to the existing parcel at 1815 East Mansfield Street pending approval. And there is an attachment enclosed to this letter that has to be referred to the planning commission, or no, I'm sorry, the planning committee.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes, goes to the ladder.
We have a communication here from the Department of Commerce, Ohio Department of Commerce Division of Liquor Control. I'll just read the first 3 paragraphs. This is dated November 12th. It's addressed to the clerk of the legislative authority. This is notice that all permits to sell alcoholic beverages in your political subdivision will expire on February 1, 2020. In order to maintain permit privileges, every permit holder must file a renewal application. Ohio Revised Code Section 4303.271B provides the legislative authority with the right to object to the renewal of a permit and request a hearing. The hearing may be held in the county seat of the county in which the permit premises is located if that request is made in writing. This will be your only opportunity to object to the renewal of liquor permit premises which might be a problem in your community. In order to register a valid objection with the Division of Liquor Control and request a hearing, the legislative authority must pass a resolution that specifies the problems at the liquor permit premises and the legal grounds for the objection as set forth in Ohio Revised Code Section 4303.292A. It is suggested that a separate resolution be passed for each permit premises. The chief legal officer of your political subdivision must also submit a statement with the resolution that in the chief legal officer's opinion, the objection is based upon substantial legal grounds within the meaning and intent of Ohio Revised Code Section 4303.292A. The resolution and chief legal officer's statement must be addressed to the Ohio Division of Liquor Control. And this is very shortly yours, Cassandra L. Hicks, Deputy Superintendent and Chief of Licensing. This is something that we do every year about this time. I did speak to the police chief, and he had no objections to any of the current holders in the city. This needs to be referred to the Health and Safety Committee.
Okay.
So moved.
So moved by Mr. McKeever,
Second.
second by Mr. Fodor. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, motion passes. Okay, we're going to have to move on to standing committee reports. Bucyrus City Joint Regular Committees met in regular session on Thursday, November 7th, 2019 at 6 p.m. First order of business is Mr. McKeever, plating.
Okay, members present was myself, Dan Wireball, Bruce Truca, Monica Sack, Doug Moak, Andrew Shaw, and Kevin Myers is back. Number 1, Bucyrus City Joint Regular Committee meeting was called to order by myself at 6 p.m. Public participation. Laura McGinnis of Arcadis provided an update on the city's, where the city stands with its U.S. EPA administrative order under the Clean Water Act, separating its sewers to reduce overflow into the Sandusky River as part of the 3-phase plan. Work is expected to continue over the winter in the area of East Southern and Highland Avenue. Flow metering is also planned for 2020. The city has provided timely reports of its progress to the EPA as required and has received acknowledgement from the agency. McGinnis was asked to reach out to the EPA to determine if it is satisfied with the city's compliance to date. Aaron Stein of the Crawford County Partnership informed council that the partnership has been awarded $94,000 grant to AEP for the installation of an electric vehicle charging station in the city. Legislation was requested following allowing AEP to send the funds to Bucyrus, which would then reimburse the partnership. A parking space also has to be dedicated for the station, and it was determined by AEP and the partnership that a space in city parking lot number 6 by the Picking Park of Washington Square would be most feasible because of its visibility and a utility pole already installed at the location. The deadline for the grant funds allocation is December 27th. Concerns were expressed about how the loss of a parking space would impact area businesses. Scott Bennett of United Bank presented a financial proposal for the city's planned purchase of a new fire engine showing 5-year, 7-year, and 10-year amortization schedules. Service Safety Director Jeff Wagner said adopting such a proposal would not impact the terms of the state purchase program. Number 3, order of committee business. A, plating committee, 6:31 p.m. to 6:56 p.m. Plating committee members present, Monica Sack, Bruce Truca, and myself, chair. Number 1, Highland Failor rezone request. Zoning administrator Landon Hill detailed a proposed zoning reclassification of 4 properties at 940 and 948 South Highland Avenue and 919 and 953 Failor Street from urban neighborhood residential R3 to limited industrial commercial LIC for a new landscaping business owned by Dane Kennedy, which would be a permitted use in the LIC. The properties would be utilized for storage. Kennedy provided a petition of support signed by 9 residents in the area, along with 4 letters of support. SAC made a motion requesting legislation to grant the zoning reclassification with a second by Truca. Motion passed by voice vote. Anthony Dyer, 928 South Highland, spoke in opposition to the proposal. 2, Tiffin Hill rezone request. The City Planning Commission, in a letter dated October 2nd, requested the committee review a proposed zoning reclassification of the property at 718 Tiffin Street from suburban residential, R2, to neighborhood business, NB. Zoning Administrator Landon Hill detailed the proposal for a new medical facility owned by Kevin Locke, which would be a permitted use in the NB. Locke of Upper Sandusky spoke about his plans for the property. Truca made a motion to schedule a public hearing on the proposed zoning reclassification for 6 p.m. on Monday, December 16th in council chambers, and to request draft legislation. SAC seconded the motion, which passed by voice vote. Letters will be mailed to property owners within 200 feet of 718 Tiffin Street, notifying them of the public hearing, in addition to a media notice, legal notice, and signs posted in the vicinity, while the draft legislation will be posted in the zoning office, all no later than Friday, November 15th. Number 3, McKeever recess planning committee at 6:56 p.m.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Beaver? I'll go ahead and move on.
Health and safety. Members present and met at, Health and Safety met at 6:56 to 7:34 p.m. Members present were Bruce Truca, Andrew Schott, and myself, acting chair. Number 1, AEP charging station. The Crawford County Partnership has been awarded a $94,000 grant through AEP for the installation of an electric vehicle charging station in the city. The partnership has requested legislation allowing AEP to send the funds to Bucyrus, which would then reimburse the partnership. A parking space would also have to be dedicated for the station, and it was determined by AP and the partnership that a space in city parking lot number 6 by Picking Park and Washington Square would be the most feasible because of its visibility and the utility pole already installed at the location. The deadline for the grant funds allocation is December 27th. Concerns were expressed about how the loss of parking space would impact area businesses. Enforcement of 2-hour parking in city parking lot number 6 was suggested. More information was requested regarding the citing criteria used by the partnership, AEP, and EV United. The item was continued. Number 2, codified ordinance 303.08, impounding of vehicles. Law Director Rob Ratliff noted that the city's codified ordinance on vehicle impoundment makes no mention of an impound fee. He suggested adding a sentence to codified ordinance 303.08B that the fee is $20 per day. The committee asked that the law director draw up a draft legislation making the change, and the item was continued. Number 3, state firearms legislation. Law Director Rob Ratliff noted that the state has changed its firearms law to preempt any local laws regarding firearms use. In addition, municipalities having such laws on the books can now be sued for having them once the state law becomes effective on December 28, 2019. The city's codified ordinances 505.08, 509.07, and 549.01 are impacted by the new state law. Ratliff noted that the state law is being challenged in court and that the city of Galion is in the process of amending its firearms ordinances. The item was continued. Number 4, we keep a recess to Health and Safety Committee meeting at 7:34 p.m.
Any questions? I got one. I don't know if everybody got that correspondence about that back from Aaronstein. It was talking about the charging station and why it couldn't be put in certain places. Good. Okay. Just make sure everybody's got that. Okay. All right. Next committee would be Monica Sack, Finance, please.
The Saturday night regular committee meeting finance was from 7:34 to 7:47 p.m. Members present: Dan Meyerbaugh, Andrew Schuck, and myself as chair. Number 1, Heinz Reservoir invoices. Service Safety Director Jeff Wagner explained that the city needs to pay Grand Center Carroll Inc. about $59,000 in bills pertaining to the remediation of the Heinz Reservoir. The invoices can be paid out of the Stormwater Utility Fund and will be part of the auditor's requested appropriations. Waterball made a motion to allocate the $59,000 out of the Stormwater Utility Fund as part of the appropriations request, with a second by Shaw. Motion passed by voice vote. Number 2, various appropriations. Auditor Joy Schiffer explained the following appropriations need to be made. A, from unappropriated general funds, $2,000 to 24 materials and supplies, 7110 and 7111, Police Department. Program 1, security of persons and properties, with $1,000 in donations to go to Police Explorers and $1,000 for police vehicle maintenance. B, from unappropriated general funds, $15,000 to 21 personal services, 7115 Fire Department. Program 1, security of persons and property for workers' compensation and hospitalization expenses. C, from unappropriated general funds, $20,000 to 23 contractual services, 7725, 7726, 7727, and 7728, Law Director, Program 7, General Government for legal fees. D, from unappropriated general funds, $700 to 21 personal services, 7755, 7756, and 7757, Engineer Development, Program 7, General Government, to cover a salary shortfall. E, from unappropriated Safety Forces Levy Fund, $16,000 to 21 personal services, 7110 and 7111, Police Department, 202 Safety Forces Levy, for workers' compensation and hospitalization expenses, and to cover a salary shortfall. F, from unappropriated street construction, maintenance, and repair fund, $98,000 to 21 personal services, 7610 street construction, maintenance, and repair, 210, street construction, maintenance and repair for workers' compensation and hospitalization expenses. G, from unappropriated 2019 Ohio Crime Victims Assistance Funds, $771.75 to 21 Personal Services, 7728 Victim Advocate, 281 2019 Ohio Crime Victims Assistance to reimburse the state for unspent funds. H, from unappropriated Waterworks funds, $500 to 99 refunds, 7520 Waterworks Administration, 701 Waterworks to cover refunds through the end of the year. I, from unappropriated sewage disposal funds, $15,500 to 21 Personal Services, 7540 Sewers and Drains, 720 sewage disposal to cover a salary shortfall. J, from unappropriated sewage disposal funds, $7,000 to 26 debt service, 7920 debt service, 720 sewage disposal to cover loan fees. K, from unappropriated stormwater utility funds, $60,000 to 23 contractual services, 7545 stormwater utility, 760 stormwater utility to pay invoices related to the remediation of the Pines Reservoir. Shop made a motion to request legislation making the various appropriations with a second by Wireball. Motion passed by voice vote. Number 3, staff adjourned the Finance Committee meeting at 7:47 p.m.
Thank you. Any questions?
I've got a comment.
Yeah.
We need to amend these minutes to add the, in item 2F, we need to add salary shortfall to the reasons for the appropriation. It is in the legislation, but it needs to be amended. Minutes need to be amended to include it in those.
Without repeating all that,
So moved.
have a second.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passed. Okay. Next is public lands and buildings, Mr. Wireball.
Yes, public lands and buildings met Thursday, November 7th, 2019, at 7:47 p.m. Members present, Bruce Truca, Doug Vogt, Mark McKeever, and myself. City tower leasing, the administration was asked to look into leasing opportunities for the city's communications towers, given the advent of 5G networks. The item was continued. Wireball recess, the Public Lands and Buildings Committee at 7:51 p.m.
Any questions for Mr. Wireball? Okay, well, thank you, guys.
Yes, to finish that.
Okay.
There was no public participation. I asked for a motion to adjourn the joint regular committees. Motion by Vogt, second by McKeever, to adjourn at 7:52 p.m. and motion passed.
Great. Okay. Next order of business. Traffic Commission, Mayor Reese.
We have nothing to report. We're in the process of scheduling a traffic commission, not next week, but the following week. We haven't set a time and date yet.
Okay, Mr. McKeever.
I don't have. He already knows what I asked you, right? Have you found out anything about the right-hand turn,
Which one?
the left-hand turn at
Answers.
Mansfield and Westbound, or the westbound track?
It's still not working? I thought it was working the other day.
It's working all the time.
Oh, it works all the time. Okay.
Yeah, we have,
I
we
figured they
we have Crossroads, we have a tripping issue, we have that one, and then we have one at Sandusky and Walnut, or Sandusky and Perry, that works all the time too. So after the paving issues and something like that. So we're looking at it all at the same time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? No. Okay, report of the city officers, Mayor Reese.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Well,
Sorry.
Oh,
That's okay.
can I hold you up? All right,
I'm in no hurry.
all right. I guess right now I need a motion to accept the committee minutes and
So
related
moved.
committee reports.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, now, motion passes, thank you. Now, Mayor Reese.
And thank you again. Mr. President,
Oh,
so.
boy, you changed that, that's good.
I did.
You're not mad?
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say that.
No, I made sure I put that.
First of all, congratulations to all newly elected officials taking office next at the first of the year. Look forward to working with you, and also thank you for choosing to serve the community. I think I speak for all the council members in welcoming and thanking them for choosing to serve. We also congratulate the inductees that were about a week or so ago that were in the Crawford County Veterans Hall of Fame. It was a nasty night, but it was a nice turnout. Bands were awesome, and Chucky Chrisman and Donnie Shear are exemplary veterans, and we owe them and all the veterans a great deal of thanks. So thanks to everybody who showed up too. Last Wednesday there was a ribbon cutting ceremony at Ohio Mutual Insurance Group, which commemorated their milestone of a $6 million investment. They basically gutted the whole place. It's beautiful inside. Preparing their business for growth and for the technology changes. They're a fantastic company. Jim Kennedy was the past CEO, and Mark Russell, the current CEO. They were there. Many board members, many agents, retirees, and there was a nice reception. We had a proclamation for them, and thank them for their investment in Bucyrus. Also met with the members of First Presbyterian Church at luncheon, and had a lot of good questions. I always like to meet with those groups, but they have a lot of good questions about what's going on, and they've been a cornerstone of the community for many years, and we hope to continue that way. So you may have read that we planted 23 trees at All Miller Park to enhance the beauty of the park and replace the 40-some trees that we lost over the last 5-7 years. An area where we need more shade, and we just have to look to the future all the time there. And then, of course, stormwater management is very important there too. And many of you were at or heard of the ribbon cutting we did for Michael Eck Woods. While you're out there, check it out. I was out there Sunday. It looks good. Saw a bunch of deer. It's just beautiful. Tonight we had Jenny Saunders and other members of executives from FC Bank. They hosted a business after hours at their bank, and they made a major announcement tonight. And they're doing some renovating there too. And had some drawings from the architect. And so it was a nice opportunity to get together with a lot of people from the community. And they've been in the business a long time. And they've been involved in the community. I think they kind of, with the changes, maybe not as involved as some of the other banks, but I think they really want to get involved again and become a good corporate citizen. We look forward to working with them. Tree Board met tonight. It was our final meeting of 2019. We started planning our meetings next year, as well as some of the issues of maintenance and we're going to deal with next year. Once again, we want to thank the Cathcart family at Bucyrus Railcar Repair for being our first major donor for the bicentennial and donating 200 trees to be planted in the city between now and 2021 in honor of our celebration. I have a couple things that I have a referral. We have been, probably for a couple of years, we've been looking into the possibility of an insurance program for our water/sewer utility customers. When you have a leak, like we experienced last meeting, had some kind of a leak and or a toilet running or whatever. It doesn't take long to that add up to $200 or $300 or $400 or $500. And so anyone who gets that bill is shocked and is not happy about it. We try to do our best to put on some kind of program within limits of our ordinances, paid off over a longer period of time. Truth is, we do have a lot of people in our community that don't make a lot of money, and when you get a bill like that, it can be devastating. So it'd be really tough to overcome. So we have some good organizations in the city that help out when they can. But the idea of the insurance program, and we'll get into it, we won't be ready to discuss it Thursday night, but the idea of the insurance program is to be able, when they have a bill that's a certain amount over, it would pick up the difference. And so I think it would be a good thing to have. We want to present that to you as soon as we get final details. But if we get it in committee, we should be ready to discuss that probably the first committee meetings of December. One more thing. We have City Council, some of you have been on a while, you know, when John Walker was here, he had to have a program for adopt a child, and all of us contributed money to that, and that's coming up. It's kind of fallen off a little bit in the last few years, but if you are interested in doing that, Kelly wants to go shopping on day after Thanksgiving, and for that person. So if anybody, council, would like to join Jeff and I in supporting that, we would certainly appreciate that. And just let Kelly know if you could by the end of the week, so we'll know how much money that we have to spend for that child. And that's all for tonight, Mr. President.
Anybody have any questions? Go ahead.
I do. It's a little bit of a question, a little bit of a statement.
Yeah.
We've talked about this a couple times over the last couple of years, about trying to make sure that we're made aware of the ribbon cuttings and things, and I think we missed the boat here. None of us in council knew about the ribbon cutting. I just wanted to look at how unusual.
That was unfortunately, that was a private fair.
Okay.
That was not it was by private invitation.
I had multiple people, you know, my
Yeah.
wife works there. I had
Yes.
multiple people text me, why aren't you here? I didn't know anything about it.
It was,
so.
and it was a private,
Okay.
and I was not even allowed to bring a guest.
Fair
If
enough.
I was allowed to bring a guest.
I was gonna say, I felt
would-
like we missed the boat.
You would have been
but,
my first guest.
All right, thanks.
I knew your wife worked there, but I was not allowed to bring, it was just a small affair with, you know, past board members, presidents, and retirees. And the county commissioners and myself were the only, I think, people outside that were even there, so.
Yeah.
You know, I should have mentioned that we had a ribbon cutting, since you brought that up, at the, what's the paper pipe? Paper pipe, and if you're cigar smokers, we got a nice place in town to smoke cigars. They've really done a wonderful job inside, and it's really nice in there, so it was
First day it was open, I walked in there, was shocked about how many people I saw in there that I had no idea smoked cigars.
there was a lot of people there,
Thank you.
and male and female.
I smoked for years, like I was, nobody knows I smoked.
Yeah, so a friend of mine confided in, they've got his favorite cigar there, and he smokes a few a year, and the reason he only smokes a few a year is because they're $20 a cigar. So they do have them, so. So we wish them the best. Now I think I'm finished, unless there's more questions.
I just have a comment. I think it's a good idea, the insurance program on the water bill. I think that's something that, you know, there's definitely, you know, if you have a water heater go bad or, you know, pipe burst or something, that's, you can get caught with a big bill in a hurry. So I think that's a good idea, and that's a good way to spread that out.
We've been talking about it for years, we're just trying to work out the details, and we think we have some pretty good details. And it's happened to me several times. It would be something that would be for individuals and businesses both.
Anybody else? All around?
Ask the other questions when we get into committee.
Okay.
I got lots of questions about that insurance program.
Well, at this present time, I guess I'd like to refer this to the service committee. I need a motion to refer.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, okay, motion passes in civil service. And then we'll be looking forward to it, like first.
Probably the first, yeah. We're just waiting for final details from the company that specializes in this. Same company that does our water lines and our sewer lines. And it's called Service Line.
Right.
And I know they do Northern Ohio Water Waters. They do cut a few of them in the states. So.
Next, we'll hear from Mr. Wagner.
Thank you, Mr. President. Jeff has a referral, the 815 East Mansfield zoning reclassification to platting.
We've already done that.
We already deferred it?
Yes.
Okay. Thanksgiving garbage is same as usual. As Thursday will be done on Wednesday, and Friday will be done on Monday. Make sure you have your garbage out early. And Thanksgiving holiday will be closed also on Thursday and Friday, except for zoning. No, Landon will not be here. Okay. CSO 6 is being worked on right now, and expect to be finished by the end of the month. We finished up the negotiations for the third-year wage reopen. Actually, they voted on today, so they voted on and approved the wage rate that we negotiated. Does that need to be further on?
No, it's part of the contract.
Okay. And you may have heard that the Santa Parade has been moved to December 6th. It's going to be at 4:30. That's on a Friday. It's going to be smaller this year.
You want me to elaborate?
Would you mind?
Not a problem.
Okay.
Basically, after the last few years of a lot of, I shouldn't say grief, I don't want to say, but just a lot of comments about the length of this parade, it being as large as it is. To be honest, the children are there because they're waiting for Santa to get done with the parade so they can go to the house, sit on his lap, and tell him what they want for Christmas. And the last 2 years, they've been maybe lucky to get 10 minutes with him by the time the parade's over, and then he's done for the night. So this is an effort of shortening up the parade to make it better for the parents and the kids. They're not standing out there freezing as long. They can get to Santa quicker. And at the same time, with FC Bank doing what they're doing and getting this ice skating rink for 2 days for our community to use, we want to make sure that the community has plenty of time to be able to get out there, use that, and enjoy one another's company rather than standing on the side of the street for 2 hours waiting for a parade. So
I think it's a good move. And Kiwanis and Rotary put this on together.
yes, and this is all because it's not, Kiwanis didn't decide this, Rotary didn't decide this. This is literally, like I said, we've been getting feedback for the last couple of years, and we're trying to do this to just make it better for the kids, because that's what this is really about anyways, is about the children, so.
And speaking of FC Bank, they're gonna have that up for 2 days. And then Saturday night will be Candlelight Christmas. So it's gonna be a big weekend.
The Winterfest.
Winterfest, yes.
It says Candlelight Christmas is December 6th and 7th.
Yeah.
But
Shopping.
yeah, it's gonna be 2 days. The shopping, yeah.
Okay.
2 days.
The Winterfest is 2 days, but the candlelight shopping is just on Saturday.
There you go. Number 8, which is 888 Ohio Comp, they donated, as a year earlier, 60 turkeys. And Pastor Carwin has been doing a good work distributing turkeys to families that need turkeys. So we thank them, we thank Pastor for doing that. We do get issues with solicitors that are going door to door trying to sign people. Somebody signed up last, maybe several weeks ago, and the rate was about 20% higher than our aggregation rate. And some of the things that these folks were told was, just deceitful. Thank you. I was looking for the right word there. Please call the mayor's office. We give you a rates, or before you sign on the dotted line, bring up the rates, and we can compare them. Most of them are kind of bait and switch. They might have a lower rate initially, but you jump into the higher. Well, we do an aggregation rate, and we're looking to get the best long-term rate that we can get for the city. And we announced, of course, new rates. I think it was the last council meeting. So we've got some really good rates. So I think that's it. I don't have anything else, Mr. President.
Anybody got anything for the service stations yet?
I got a question on that. My mom got wrapped up in that door-to-door person, and a few weeks ago. I thought at one time they had a badge or something. They had to
Supposed to register. Yeah, in the police department, yeah.
And, maybe we can put that out, maybe on the Facebook page or something, that, hey, you should be wearing one of these if they come to your door.
That's a good idea.
And not all.
The problem with that, and historically what some other towns have found when they implement those badges, is it gives that marketer an extra step of credibility, like, look, the city says I'm here for them and I'm approved and I've got a city badge. Whereas, the issue with the aggregation stuff, and a lot of that is that maybe the rates aren't quite as good as they say they are, their salesmen, but the badge is used as an extra level of credibility. We do require any of those marketers to be registered with the city and their information be on file here. but there's a double-edged sword to actually giving them a badge that says City of Bucyrus approved door-to-door salesperson.
But did you still have to carry a permit with them? Yes or no?
They can have a permit, they should have it with them. What happens is a lot of those, the company will give a permit for multiple people. And you'll see if someone will drive up in a van and they'll scatter and come back in the van.
I was asking to show me their permit and they leave.
I show them my prosecutor badge. But same effect, yeah.
So you haven't switched yet?
No, but yeah, you get those, and you get a lot of them, and there are people that just don't understand.
To Dan's reasoning though, maybe just putting out on the city's website to do like what Kevin says and ask to see that permit, that they are authorized to.
But again, even that permit, we can't stop, somebody from Ram Electric Company that's selling the rate 10 times higher than ours, we can't stop them from doing that. So they're permitted to do it. So, what we don't want is we don't want to give them a permit that gives them the appearance of credibility or the appearance of acting on behalf of the city to do whatever door-to-door salesmanship that they're doing. So, yeah, we want them permitted and we want them, to be registered, but we also don't want them registering and having that permit does not mean that you represent the city or anything that we sponsor or even that we approve what you're selling. So, and that's like the catch there.
Mr. President. Unfortunately, just to tag on to that, the people that tend to fall for that tend to be elderly people, and they're not website savvy, and what they're susceptible to is a fast-talking, nice person who is very complimentary, and he knows the sales tactics.
Well, let's be honest, they're happy that they're getting some company too sometimes. There's somebody there even talking to them.
Yeah, that's true, yeah. So, yeah, we discussed some things that we probably could do better as a city to alert these folks. It's an ongoing issue.
Well, it's a legal issue. I mean, what I'm getting at is after they signed it down, can they come to you or?
It depends, yeah. Oftentimes a lot of those have a callback provision that they can send it after a certain period of time. But if not, the citizens' only recourse is generally through the Public Utilities Commission. Giant bureaucracy, So that's a difficulty. We have the ability to pursue individuals that are registered with the city for marketing or selling without permits. We can do that, those provisions in the law. We could look at strengthening those, make that a higher penalty. I think right now it's a year. I think the double check, I'm pretty sure that's what it is. We could look at strengthening that, and put some teeth into it, make sure that they are permitted and what they're doing. But, yeah, I mean, a lot of times it comes out of contract law and it's a civil issue, so it's difficult.
To your point, should we put that into committee and just at least start a discussion on it to see if there's things we can do?
If you want, I can bring you that ordinance on Thursday and show it to you, and we can talk about it if there's something to do.
I don't see the harm in referring it.
Okay, well, it's my turn next, and I'll be free.
There you go.
Well, and I just want to reiterate, my mom, she called me when this guy was there, and I asked him if he had a permit, because that's her go-to thing, if she doesn't want to do something, she says, no, I have to ask myself. So, which is fine. So she called me, I said, Mom, just tell him to leave. Well, she couldn't get him to leave until she took this program, and then when he left, she called and canceled, which, that's not right,
Well,
that people can come into an older person's home and
Well, first of all.
basically threaten them.
Yeah, first of all, don't let them in your house. You're not required to let anybody in your house. And secondly, call police immediately.
Yeah, I did, and I think they went down and
Yeah.
just stopped him and said, you need to get a permit.
And our police force is very attuned to that. We've had issues over the years and they do a remarkable job of getting there quick. And
Okay.
Before we get started, then can I just go ahead and refer this solicitation to the Health and Safety Committee.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. We're going to have this in Health and Safety. Okay, Rob.
I got nothing now.
Stole my thunder.
Bruce stole all my thunder. There's nothing. Thank you, sir. No, you're welcome.
Great report, Rob.
Thank you.
You got any questions?
Just moving it right along, Bruce.
I got a couple questions.
Certainly.
So how are we doing with Schwinn and Whetstone?
Not done.
They're all flat now.
These guys are like excavator ninjas.
Yeah, it was, the swim building was particularly impressive. They were in a pretty tight space there. They got that down. It's amazing how, the big blue house right next door to it, it's amazing how much.
Looks how much nicer.
Yeah,
It
it's
looks
just.
a lot nicer.
It looked a lot nicer 3 months ago.
Yeah, you didn't realize how close that swim building was to us.
I thought it was kind
Love looking at it.
That's why one of those, I thought this has been kind of, not funny, but you know, all this time we've been talking about these property maintenance issues and these building ordinances and everything like that. If you've watched, a lot of houses in this community have been maybe look nicer over the last year if you drive around a little.
Well, and we've seen, we really have seen a lot of investment in that Hopley Street and that Hopley Southern interchange. We've seen, there's some pretty impressive houses along there now. People have really invested a lot of money into it, so I'm glad we were able to get that done. Whetstone, you can't even tell that place was ever there. Moore Street, I've already had 2 people call me interested in buying a lot. We don't control it or own it yet, but we'll eventually. So, yeah, banks, I should have mentioned that, I suppose, but, thanks for you guys for your support and funding that program every year. And I'll have another list for you next year.
So how soon are we going to use youngers?
I talked to the owners today. They have a date in mind, but they said don't mention it. So they're working hard on it. They're even working at night too. They've got and the weekends.
They're out on Saturday work.
Yeah. So they're working hard on it. We're just having some discussions right now because it's running out of time for asphalt. Or they're going to do asphalt or concrete, and they're just, that's what's kind of going on right now. So, but before long, we will be eating Whoppers or Impossible Whoppers.
I eat dinner.
That's all I can say.
Well, what do we hear about guns?
Nothing more. I mean, the legislation is out there. I can bring you to health and safety a list of all of our ordinances that have guns. Guidance taking the aggressive step of repealing most all of their ordinances. Most cities are taking wait and see on the litigation. I don't know. It's a scary state statute because it does carry the lawsuit provisions. Allowing attorneys to sue, which is
Like the 911 stuff.
yeah, there are attorneys that make livings doing that.
Have you heard anything more about the reservoirs or anything like that?
We're training, and
We're
we got some
training,
updates on that.
Rebecca's out there today. We'll walk around. We're not coming over the spillway, so ODNR is, we met our goal. Next plan then is for next year to do the breach. And it's retaining a lot of its, natural beauty. It's dropped, and so there's some possibilities there. As we get down to the level and as we do the work that's required, there's some options. What do we now do? We want to keep it, sell it, turn it over to the park. Because there's some things that we can be doing, but it's still.
Be a beautiful nature preserve. So.
Yeah, we have some possibilities there.
Anyone else have any questions?
There's a lot of, if anybody is into collecting beer bottles, I know where you get a bunch of them. There's a lot of bottles and cans that
Put something in there for the
Right.
for the taking.
How long ago, though?
No, you help yourself.
Anyone got any other questions? Thank you, Rob.
Thank you, sir.
Next, auditor, Joy Sugar.
Thank you, Mr. President.
I didn't give you a written list because I don't have one together yet. What I'd like to do is just ask to refer more or less a blanket referral for any appropriations, reductions, and advances to prepare for year end.
I have a motion to do that.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes to one to the finance committee. Anyone have any questions for Joyce? Just to make sure that everybody's aware of it, then we're going to have a meeting, December 3rd, December 2nd?
Third.
Third?
Or finance.
For finance, well, for budget.
Budget, yeah. I can't remember the exact date, but it's
Oh, I thought we were-
Oh, November, okay, that's right. It was
The 25th, Monday.
November
It was
25th.
changed.
Yeah,
Okay.
25th at 3.
3:30.
3:30? Okay, sorry.
Well, we all agree.
Yeah.
We'll eventually get to that agreement.
Okay, we also have auditor state of cash position dated October 31st, 2019. I need to accept and file.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Treasurer's report, 0.
I will say the treasurer's having some issues with the new reports she's getting and having trouble balancing, and I feel her pain because I'm having issues too, but, yeah. But that's why you don't have the reports at this point. She's working on them.
Police chief, fire chief, nothing. Okay. Motion to accept city officers' reports.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay, at this present time, anybody out there that would like to come to the podium and speak? Okay, apparently there's nobody. Okay, I guess the next order of business is consideration of proposed legislation.
Hey, you can just call into recess.
Okay,
No.
No.
overruled.
Yes, you're not ready.
You're not as nice as the other president.
Right?
Keep going, Drew, keep going.
Do you have to? We'll quit. All right.
All right, we have two pieces of legislation, they're both ordinances. Ordinance number 58, 2019, amending and supplementing section 1157.02 entitled Official Zoning District Map under chapter 1157, entitled Zoning Districts and Zoning District Map under Title 9, entitled Zoning Districts under Part 11, entitled Planning and Zoning Code of the codified ordinances of the city of Bucyrus by the redesignation of the properties located at 940 South Highland Avenue, 948 South Highland Avenue, 919 Failor Street, and 953 Failor Street for parcel numbers 0800-1886-9000, 0800-1632-3000, 0800-1399-4000, 0800-1714-8000 from R3, the Urban Neighborhood Residential District, into LIC, the Limited Commercial Industrial District. That is referred to the Planning Committee. Ordinance number 59, 2019, amending and supplementing ordinance number 61, 2018, being the annual appropriations ordinance for 2019 by appropriating from unappropriated general funds the sum of $2,000 to the materials and supplies line item within the police department category and $15,000 to the personal services line item within the fire department category, with both categories being within the program on security of persons and property subparagraph. Further appropriating from unappropriated general funds the sum of $20,000 to the contractual services line item within the law director category and $700 to the personal services line item within the engineering development category, with both categories being within the program 7 general government subparagraph. Further appropriating from unappropriated safety forces levy funds the sum of $16,000 to the personal services line item within the police department category within the service safety forces levy subparagraph. Further appropriating from unappropriated street construction, maintenance, and repair funds the sum of $98,000 to the personal services line item within the street construction, maintenance, and repair category within the street construction, maintenance, and repair subparagraph. Further appropriating from unappropriated 2019 Ohio Crime Victims Assistance Funds the sum of $771.75 to the personal services line item within the victim advocate category within the 2019 Ohio Crime Victims Assistance subparagraph. Further appropriating from unappropriated waterworks funds the sum of $500 to the refunds line item within the waterworks administration category within the waterworks subparagraph. Further appropriating from unappropriated sewage disposal funds the sum of $15,500 to the personal services line item within the sewers and drains category and $7,000 to the debt service line item within the debt service category, with both categories being within the sewage disposal subparagraph. And finally, appropriating from unappropriated stormwater utility funds the sum of $60,000 to the contractual services line item within the stormwater utility category within the stormwater utility subparagraph and declaring an emergency. That's referred to the Finance Committee.
Okay. I need a motion to accept this as a first reading.
So moved. Second.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. Go ahead and, I guess we need a report from,
Public participation.
oh, sorry. Okay. Anybody? Okay. Public participation. Okay, well, that answers that. Refer back to committee. I guess I need a committee report.
Okay, planning committee is in favor of ordinance 58-2019, Failor, Highland rezoning.
Finance is favorable to ordinance 59-2019, the various appropriations.
Okay, thank you. Need a motion to accept the report.
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, okay, motion passes. Further consideration pending legislation. Okay.
This one's not
For the second and third readings of proposed ordinance 58-2019, do I hear a motion to suspend the rules, waive the reading of the caption and text? Period.
So moved.
Second.
Poe,
Yes.
McKeever,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Wireball,
Yes.
Trucca,
Yes.
Yes.
I'm sorry, Shaw.
Yes.
You almost got me, I was gonna answer.
Ordinance number 58-2019.
Okay. Do I hear a motion to adopt proposed ordinance 58-2019?
So moved. Second.
McKeever,
Yes.
Poe,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Wireball,
Yes.
Trucca,
Yes.
Sack.
Yes.
Okay, ordinance number 58-2019 is duly adopted. Okay, okay. Now, for the second and third readings on proposed 59-2019, do I hear a motion to suspend the rules, waive the readings of the caption and text, and declare it an emergency?
So moved.
Second.
Poe,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Wireball,
Yes.
Trucca,
Yes.
Sack,
Yes.
Shaw,
Yes.
McKeever.
Yes.
Ordinance number 59-2019.
Do I hear a motion to adopt proposed ordinance 59-2019?
So moved.
Second.
Wireball,
Yes.
McKeever,
Yes.
Myers,
Yes.
Trucca,
Yes.
Sack,
Yes.
Poe,
Yes.
Shaw.
Yes.
Ordinance 59-2019 is duly adopted. Okay. Anybody have any unfinished business out there? Yes, sir.
I do. I know that in the open items list for health and safety is ambulance service, but I've spoken with a few people. I would like to make another referral just to make sure that we're covered to discuss what the future of EMS in the city looks like, including how, what funding models up to, including potentially looking at levies and things like that. So I'd like to throw that into committee, into health and safety, and at least get started on that discussion.
Finance as well?
I spoke with Mr. Ratliff earlier. He indicated that at this moment, health and safety, but you still feel that's acceptable? Or?
It is. Eventually, if you're gonna do anything levy or tax oriented, you're gonna have to run it through finance committee, but in the initial stages to determine what kind of options and things, it's more of a health and safety committee issue.
That'll be for Thursday's discussion.
You can put it on, we won't talk much about it, but at least, like I said, just to get the ball rolling, it's okay to put it on for Thursday.
So moved.
So moved by Doug Fold. Second. And Mark McKeever, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Motion passes. Any other unfinished business? No? New and miscellaneous business? Anybody have anything new? Yes, I don't know that I got it. Huh? Yeah, so did I. I guess I can let everybody else read what's there. Says joint regular committees, all referrals from this council meeting and any open project list items may be discussed during the committee meetings. Referrals that we will have.
We've got 6 new referrals. We have the rezoning request for the property on East Mansfield Street that is from council to the planning committee. We have the liquor license renewals from council to health and safety. We have water sewer insurance proposal from the administration to the service committee that will not be on the agenda for Thursday. We have the solicitation ordinance that is from council to health and safety. We have year-end appropriations reductions and advances from the auditor to finance. And possibly for Thursday, we have EMS funding from council to health and safety. Mr. Coe, did you want to refer something when Mr. Frankhouse was speaking? You mentioned referring an issue. I don't remember what it was.
No, I was just gonna give him something that he needs. Yeah, no, I was just gonna give him some information he needs.
Okay, very good. Also, on the agenda for Thursday, already in committee, is the safety service director residency ordinance, that is in finance, and the AEP charging station proposal, that is in public lands and buildings. Anything else you want to add, let me know by about 11 o'clock tomorrow morning.
Well, quick question. The AEP charging station per the minutes tonight was in health and safety.
It was in health and safety, all right.
There's been discussion of the moving the public lane.
Over the time frame.
Yeah.
Do we need to excuse Madam President?
I'll make a motion to excuse the president.
I think she owes us something for that. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion passes. At this present time, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
8:28.
81. See, I think I was pretty nice.